All right. So thank you for such a warm introduction, and thanks for inviting me to this session. Thanks to Karuna ma'am. I don't know whether she has joined. Yeah, I think I can see her in the video off mode.
Namaste, Vinay ji.
Okay, madam.
How are
Thank you so
you?
much. I'm
So
doing
nice.
great.
Thanks for joining. We
Thank you
look
so much.
forward for your enlightening talk, and
Thank you
it's
so much.
my favorite. And Vinay ji is not just he's a wonderful practitioner. He practices yoga for more than 2 hours a day, and he's a wonderful being too. And I had an opportunity to listen to him in IIT Hyderabad when he was talking in the IIT conclave. It was wonderful listening to him. Welcome, Vinay ji. Thank you so much for joining us. And
Madam.
you may over to Vinay ji. You may
Yeah,
take over.
thank you so much. Yeah, it's such a privilege to be here at SVYASA ODL department because I am also a graduate of SVYASA. So it's always pleasure to come back to your alma mater to share something which I think I've learned from SVYASA only, I would say. So because it's like good to share my whatever the experience I had after SVYASA, I would say a little bit of if I added something to my experience. And one request for some of you, at least if you can turn on your cameras, so it will be good. At least I can see a few of your faces when I'm talking. Um, Before we start, so one request is whenever we have any question, in case if you think it is related to the topic I'm talking, right, you feel free to stop me if it is bothering you too much. If you think you cannot think about anything else apart from the question, you can stop me and ask the question. I'm absolutely fine with that. So otherwise, we can just take all the questions at the end. Absolutely fine. Yeah, I think Karuna ma'am has some instruction with the. She's talking with the microphone mute mode.
Vinay ji, my request is, can we take the questions in the end so that we
Okay,
can have
fine.
a good, whatever you have to say, please say, and they
All
can note down the questions. And in the end, if they ask, that will be really great. It will be
right.
wonderful for us. And also
All right.
later on, when they listen, also it will be wonderful.
Sure, sure. Then we can
Okay.
take the questions at the end. But I would like to definitely make it interactive. I will be asking questions. If not, you are asking question. So because I'm assuming that all of you have been from SVYASA, have done certifications, you have done teachers training course, YAC, MSc, whatever you have done. And so if I ask something, I'm expecting something from you guys. That's why I'm asking questions for this audience. So because I just definitely don't want it to be a monologue completely where I'm talking and you just listen to whatever I'm saying. We can do that way, but it's good to have some kind of interaction, at least just to make it more lively. Otherwise, particularly those who are in the video off mode, you may sleep also after some time. Okay, so that you just awake when you are there in the session.
Vinay ji,
All
I
right,
don't think when you speak, they will sleep.
I hope so, but not sure. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, all right, so let us start the session itself. We are here to talk about the physiology of pranayama. So,
Vinay ji, you can start it with the prayer, Sahanavavatu.
oh, I just
It's
said a
yes,
prayer.
our tradition.
Oh, okay. I just said a prayer, so we'll restart in the request of Karuna ma'am. We'll restart the prayer. And everybody keep your eyes closed. We'll just do together. Adop Namaskara City. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's slowly open your eyes. Thank you. All right. So we'll straight away get to the topic. The topic that I've been given is to talk about the physiology of pranayama. I'll definitely share my slide. But before I start sharing my slide, I want to set a context for the entire topic itself. So moment you think about physiology, I think you all know. So we are talking about the functional aspect of pranayama itself. Because when we just inhale or when we exhale, what exactly happens? And what are the different kinds of breathing? In my presentation, as I just keep talking, I'm going to cover this physiology from a little bit about from the perspective of nervous system, and definitely the musculoskeletal system, which is our favorite. So I'll talk about from different aspects, and more than that, we want to understand how some of these are mentioned in the scriptures also, because when we read our scriptures, for us, as a yoga teachers, right, whatever scripture says is the base reference for all of us. So whatever anatomy, physiology says is something which is an add-on kind of a thing, but whatever scriptures are talking about is the essence. Okay, so we're just going to revisit some of the, at some places at least, we want to look at the scriptures and see what the scripture says, and from there we are going to take some ideas and see if anatomy also or the physiology also talks about the same things. Okay, and before we start, I want to clarify some definitions, some basic terms, and maybe I'll ask you the definition. So when you talk about pranayama, right, what exactly is pranayama?
So pranasya ayamaha is pranayama. It's a regulation and controlled breath. What we call, it's a
The
technique of
pranayama
regulation.
was fine, but when you talk about breath, right? See, when we talk about prana, it is not necessarily breathing. Okay? I think we all know that, right? But so used to that, whenever we talk about pranayama, we just first thing comes to our mind is breathing. Okay, and prana is essentially a life force, so which is there in all of us in different forms. And you can say pranasya ayama, or you can, one more way of defining it is, how do we kind of experience the prana within us and enhance the experience of it. So we all know some pranayama at a very basic level, at least breath level we know, but apart from that, the prana is there in every cell of our body, and you all know about the main pranas: prana, apana, udana, vyana. And when we talk about pranayama, it can essentially mean getting into the experience of all of these pranas, upapranas, and enhancing the experience of it. So that definition, I love that, because that definition fits into it beautifully. Because this is one of my teacher, Dr. Ananda, defines pranayama this way. He says it's enhancing the experience of prana itself. And now, when you go by this definition, the prana is something which covers all aspects of our existence. So because we all keep using the word as when the prana is kind of, when somebody dies, what we say, the prana oitu, we say in Kannada, right? I don't know how many of you know Kannada. So that means the essence of an existence has left the body. Okay, and when we are born also, we are born with that essence into the body. So for the prana is that essential life force itself, without which we are just a body. That's it, nothing else. We can have a dead body, I can say. Okay, and that essence is what we are talking about in today's session. So, and when we talk about this essence, the external expression of this essence is what is breathing all about. So breathing is not directly, we can say breathing is the only thing about pranayama. Pranayama covers everything, and breathing is a component of it. Fine, that is clear with this definition. And now when we talk about breathing as a small component of it, why breathing is that expression? Why do we have to focus on breathing itself? That is because breathing, through breath, we are in turn controlling all other aspects of prana, and without which all other aspects of prana also will not exist. And that is the only reason why we are focusing enormously on the breathing. But breathing is not only way of defining pranayama all about. Okay, it's much beyond that, and breath is just one aspect of it. And of course, when we talk about anatomy and physiology, the beyond aspect is something which a modern medical system will not understand. So that's why we have to stick to this breathing itself for today's session. Because if we talk about prana from the energy aspects, right, a lot of these things are, I think the science is catching up slowly. There are some correlations to all of these things, but still not completely there, where we can for sure say this is exactly what is prana in the body. To some extent, science have come closer to identify what exactly it could be. Okay, all right. So coming back now, we understood about the pranayama definition, the prana, and the breathing itself. And now, when we talk about breathing, now I told you why we are talking about breathing. When we talk about breathing, breathing can be both conscious and unconscious. Both are possible, and most of the times, when we are busy with our activities, it takes care of automatically on its own. It's going on, and only when we are conscious And that's when the breath is in our control. And that is exactly what is pranayama, you can say. Because pranayama, you can say it's a conscious breathing. And a lot of times people, my student also asked me, can we practice pranayama watching TV? Sorry, you can't do it. Okay, because when your mind is somewhere else and you are doing some gymnastics with your breath, and that is not considered as pranayama. Let us clarify this part clearly. So your breath, your mind should be with your breathing and your breath. Only then to an extent we can say it is pranayama practice. Otherwise, no way close to pranayama practice. All right, clear? All right, so with this, let me just start sharing my screen now. So let me know once you can see the screen, because from here is where the pictures are required. So I have to start. Please let me know once it is visible. Or you are going to give out carbon dioxide, and that's essentially the function of respiratory system. If you don't have any more questions here, I'll go to the next slide because I don't want to elaborate in this, because I am assuming that most of you know about this. So considering that, let us go to the next important topics now. So what is the purpose of pranayama itself? Anybody wants to say why do we do pranayama? Anyone? What is the purpose of doing the practice of pranayama itself? Yes, anybody can say. I can't see anybody. So I just, because I think I realized that when I'm sharing the screen, I can't see much.
The balancing of Ida and Pingala Nadi.
The balancing of Ida and Pingala, fantastic. Anything else?
Slowing
We
down
can
the
control our unconscious breath by using our conscious breath.
So you can control the unconscious breath with your conscious effort. Okay, what else?
So basically, if we say on psychologically term, it's to give the mental calmness or clarity, or if physiologically, if we say,
Fantastic.
so basically it's like bringing the purification in blood and
Got it.
calm down the nervous system.
All right. So what exactly the text is? Let us go to that. So the main purpose, see, whenever we talk about pranayama or anything in yoga, right, we refer to the classical text of Hatha Yoga Pratipika, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Jnana Samhita, all of those things, right? So when we look at the Hatha Yoga Pratipika, it clearly says, Chale vate chalam chittam nischare nichalam bhave yogi sthanutvam apnoti tato vayum nirodhaye. So essentially what it means is, however your breath goes, so does your mind. And by restraining your breath, you are in turn restraining your mind, and which is the whole essence of yoga practice itself. Because when we talk about yoga practice, the Patanjali's first sutra, Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha, is what we all properly know it, right? So that is the purpose of pranayama also. So the pranayama, the essential aspect of pranayama is to calm the mind. And all these, the breathing, whatever we talk about, right? It is just a byproduct of this process of calming the mind. Okay, one way of looking at it. Okay, we'll look at multiple ways. So essentially, we are trying to calm the mind through the practice of pranayama. And there are a few more popular, if you look at Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it gives two important purpose of doing the practice itself. One is tatakshiyate prakasha varanam dharanasucha yogyata manasaha. So essentially what it is trying to say is, through the practice of pranayama, you are removing that veil of ignorance which is covering, and the illuminance is seen, or it shines through. And that is the purpose of pranayama practice. And essentially what it is doing is, it's preparing your mind to dharana, which is the next higher level practice. We all know, right? After pranayama, pratyahara is what the dharana is. And to prepare us for the practice of dharana is why we do pranayama practice. And now by this, we kind of know that it's all about something to do with the mind. It is something to cleanse the mind, we can say that, and to take the mind to the next level sadhana. And that is possible only when we move this awareness from the voluntary to the involuntary breathing. And that is where the next thing that I want to talk about. See, when we talk about involuntary breathing, right? See, if you look at the brain, so the brain is having the big cerebral cortex, which is the decision making part of our existence. Because this is what is huge in human beings, and it is in animals, it is very small primitive structure. And this is what makes us human, you can say. the cerebral cortex itself. And under that, we have what is called as the lower brain, which is made up of your pons and medulla. So whenever we are breathing involuntarily without awareness, most of the nerve firings are happening from this part, which is the lower part of your brain. Why? Because your mind is busy with something else. It is busy working on your system or listening to some lecture, or you're doing something, and the breathing is even in auto mode. It is taken care automatically. And this is exactly what is happening. But when we talk about chitta or the chitta vritti and all of that, right? And that is happening in your main brain, which is your cerebral cortex itself. And if you want to really control that part, we want to shift this entire awareness from the lower part of the brain to the higher part of the brain. And that is exactly what is done by voluntary breathing. So when you start breathing voluntarily, you shift this control of the lower part of your brain to your main control areas, which is your cerebral cortex area. And now the breathing is controlled from there. That means what happens? Now you have taken the control of the mind, which is wandering with different thoughts, different activities, and putting it back into your brain. And that is essentially what we are doing now. Through when we talk about chale bate chalam chittam nischale nischalam, or you're trying to kind of calm the mind. So essentially what you're doing is you're giving a different work for the mind. So the mind is busy doing something else. I will just say, don't do all of these things. Sit here and do the breathing now. And that's essentially what we say, what we are doing by moving from unconscious breathing to a conscious breathing. And this is, I think I can just show you the different images here, where we say the metabolic breathing, which is nothing but it's animalistic instinct. All that is happening from the lower part of your brain, and the voluntary breathing is happening from the top, the cortex part of your brain. And in between, there is one more, which is your emotional breathing, which is taken care by your limbic system. I think you all know limbic system consists of your amygdala, hippocampus, all of those things. And that is exactly what takes care of emotional breathing. When I say emotional breathing, what exactly it means is when you're suddenly stressed or when you're emotionally deprived, then your breath changes. Automatically it changes without even you trying to do anything. Your breath changes, and that shift, what happens is because of your emotional cortex or the limbic system itself, which is causing the breath to change, to adapt yourself to handle that emotion in a better way, right? So there are three different controls. And if at all, if somebody wants to do a ECG study or a functional MRI study, putting yourself or somebody in the system, and you ask them to breathe unconsciously, ask them to breathe consciously, and give some emotional activity, and you can see firing happening at different sections of your brain. So essentially, the breathing is not just controlled by one part; it is through the entire brain, and depending on the kind of nature of the breathing that you're doing. So far clear? All right. So now let us continue to stay with the nervous system itself for a little while. So I think you all know about nervous system. I think before I go there, you all know that there's a central nervous system, which is your brain and spinal cord, and a peripheral nervous system, which is all the one which controls your motor and sensory systems. And there is autonomic nervous system, which takes care of autonomic functions, including breathing. When I say autonomic nervous system, again, it is of two types. That is something which you all are familiar with, which is having sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic is the one which is excitatory in nature, and parasympathetic is the one which calms you down. So depending on all the things going on in the mind, different systems are excited. I think not only the mind, predominantly the mind, I can say. Okay, depending on your thoughts, different systems are excited. Because if somebody is stressing you so much, I think that is something which I think in a stress also we have learned in detail. When somebody stresses us, all our sympathetic system goes up, and when something is calming down, your parasympathetic system triggers, and that takes care of the system. And whenever we are not consciously breathing, whenever we are unconsciously breathing, then we just don't know which system is working. Depending on the nature of thoughts, depending on the activity you are doing, sympathetic or parasympathetic could be working. If you're sleeping, probably parasympathetic will take over. If you're doing some intense activity, then probably sympathetic will take over. But moment you bring your focus to a conscious breathing, then the magic starts happening there. Because moment you start becoming conscious, and then we are giving the control predominantly to inclined or tilted towards parasympathetic dominance. And that's where moment you bring your awareness to your breath, your mind starts calming down. I think that is something which you all know, right? Whenever your mind is wandering at any point of time, you just sit quietly and bring your awareness to your breath, the mind starts calming down. And that's exactly what is happening now. Moment you shift that from involuntary to voluntary, your mind starts reducing, or you're shifting towards parasympathetic system more. You're inclined towards that. All right. And then I think the science has also figured out that these two systems are related to our breathing in a different way also. So we all know about Ida and Pingala Nadi. I think we all know Ida is something which is your left nostril, Pingala is your right nostril. And when you're breathing more from your left nostril, you're activating your parasympathetic system. When you're breathing more from your right nostril, you're activating your sympathetic system. And that is something which keeps on shifting. At any point of time, if you observe now, if you close one nostril and you observe the other nostril, typically one nostril will be more dominant. And that is like, that keeps on shifting, roughly 1.5 hours is what we say. It keeps on shifting. And depending on what is dominant, even the text, yogic text goes on to say what activity you should do depending on that nostril dominance. Say, for example, they say that whenever you want to eat some food, you should ensure that your right nostril is active. Okay. Or whenever you want to do some puja or something like that, probably ensure that your left nostril is active. Only if you want to do meditation kind of an activity, you ensure that both the nostrils are active. So all of these are in detail explained in the different yogic texts. So based on this science of how the breath is working in relation to sympathetic and parasympathetic system. Fine. And now, if you look at the physiological responses for all of left nostril and right nostril, there are a lot of things that happens when you're breathing from your right and when you're breathing from your left. Physiologically, I'm talking about. Okay. So when you're breathing more from your right nostril, it increases your oxygen consumption. It decreases the galvanic skin resistance, increases the blood pressure, increases heart rate, increases temperature, increases glucose level, because it is preparing you to run away from some situation. And whenever your left nostril is active predominantly, so it decreases oxygen consumption, decreases the blood pressure, decreases the heart rate, decreases the body temperature, decreases the blood glucose level. All of that is a response to your left nostril being more dominant. I think yesterday most of you might have attended a session by Dr. Meena Ramanathan. I think they have done a lot of research on this particular aspect itself, where they have tried to work on different pranayamas and how it impacts on different systems. Just to give an example or just an overview of the research, I think you can look at in my Yogavijnana YouTube channel, where I have spoken to Dr. Meena Ramanathan and try to understand how this Surya Nadi Pranayama, Chandra Nadi Pranayama, Surya Bedana, Chandra Bedana, all of these influences on different systems. I think it's a beautiful study that they have done. So eventually what they have found out is, whichever nostril you start inhaling from, that is the one which is more active, that activates that particular system. So essentially what it means is, when you're doing Surya Bedana practice, you start inhaling from your right nostril, so it activates your sympathetic system. And when you're doing Chandra Bedana, you activate your left nostril, because you start inhaling from the left nostril and it activates your parasympathetic system, which in turn calms you down. And it's a beautiful study, because a lot of times, I think this is again a two different thought here, particularly when we do Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, right? Some schools say that you have to start breathing from your right nostril. Some schools say you should start breathing from your left nostril. Now, based on this study, you can just say what is happening. Okay. So when you start breathing from the left nostril, your entire practice is tilted towards parasympathetic dominance. When you're starting to breathe more, starting with your right nostril, it is tilted towards sympathetic dominance. And there is a reason why some schools pick this approach, some schools pick this approach. You're not going there, but SVYASA says start from your left nostril. I think that is something which I am sure. So now you know, because at the end of the day, we want to calm our systems down. at least the nervous system level. So that's one of the reason why we are starting to breathe from your left nostril. I hope this till this anyway. I think we'll go to the question answers at the end because I can't see most of you when I'm presenting. We'll continue now. So this is something totally from the nervous system perspective or the neurons perspective, how this whole thing works. And now let us go little bit a different approach now. Now, what are the benefits of the pranayama practice itself? If you look at the benefit, I think we all know about lung expansion, chest becoming bigger, and all of those things we keep talking about, right? So, but the text specifically says, the Gerada Samhita, if you look at it, it says pranayama is creating lagutvam, or a lightness in the body. When we talk about lightness, it can be a physical lightness or a feeling of lightness also. But let us understand whether they are talking about physical lightness or the feeling of lightness. For that, the Atayuga Pradipika comes to reference for us, or comes to our help. So what Atayuga Pradipika is clearly saying is Opukrishatvam Madane Prasannata. So when I say Opukrishatvam, it means through the practice of pranayama, in turn, what you're doing is your nadis are being purified. I think that is something which I understood for most of us. By practicing pranayama, we are purifying our nadis, and through that purification of nadis, one's body becomes leaner. And now think of it this way, right? What they're saying is pranayama is creating lightness and also making person leaner. Now when particularly as a yoga teachers, right? A lot of people come to us saying, I want to lose weight. Most of the times, our approach is, oh yeah, do a lot of Surya Namaskaras, do Kapalbhati, do Bastrika, and whatever, do intense 100 rounds, 108 Surya Namaskar every day, you lose weight. This is one way of looking at it. Okay, this is looking at it from a physical perspective, and which is exactly what most of the world is looking at it, because they measure calories, calorie in, calorie out. That's exactly is the way of looking at it, right? So because of that, they don't look at the other dimension to it. And our texts are giving the other dimension to it. Through the practice of pranayama, you are bringing lightness in your body, and your body is becoming leaner. And now, asana is gone. For us to lose weight, what we need more is pranayama practices. But most of the times, this is the one which is done less in the class. Particularly when somebody wants to lose weight, right? If I tell them to do pranayama every 1 hour, every day 1 hour, they say, hey, I don't want to do pranayama and all. Let's teach you some very, very intense physical activities. This is what the text says. But is it only the text saying it, or is there some science behind it? So let us understand the science behind this whole thing, right? And there is a beautiful research published. When somebody loses weight, where does that fat go? This was a question and a research paper also published in British Medical Journal. It's one of the most celebrated journal, I would say. Which was published long back in 2014, I think. Yeah, 2014 is when this paper was published. And what they found out was this particular equation they gave. So let me explain what exactly it is. So this is the chemical composition of a human fat. Okay, the chemical composition of human fat, and this is the oxygen that we are intaking, which is from the breathing. And now, what exactly is happening is whenever there is a I think I'm not a chemist here to validate this particular equation, but it is directly from the research paper. So I can say it is validated when it was published. Okay, so when the oxygen, the air we intake is mixed with the triglyceride or the human fat equation, it gives out carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water. And carbon dioxide is what is exhaled out, and water is what comes out as sweat. Fine. And now, if you look at the how the fat is also getting translated, the 10 kg of fat that was there is coming out as 8.4 kilo of carbon dioxide and 1.4 kg of water. And now what we see is whenever we do a workout or anything, particularly the modern day, the high intensity workouts and all that, right? They just focus on sweating. They say, you keep sweating, you keep sweating, you keep sweating, then you'll lose weight more. But what it is saying is, you breathe more, you breathe right. When you're exhaling longer, that's exactly what the yoga texts talk about, right? we say inhale for some time and exhale for longer. Essentially, what we are doing is you're taking out more carbon dioxide. Or when you are doing Kumbhaka, when you hold your breath, that means you're giving more time or the space required for the oxygen to exchange so that more carbon dioxide is produced, which can be exhaled out. So what they're essentially saying is that extra carbon atom which comes out is what is heavier and what exactly comes out. And there's a lot of weight loss or whatever, a lot of fat is taken out in the way we are breathing out itself. Okay. And now I was just thinking, this is my assumption, I would say, because a lot of times people lose weight when they run a lot. Why? Because their breathing becomes faster. Just think of it, right? When you're breathing, naturally your breathing is faster. Or when we advise people do a lot of Surya Namaskaras, essentially what we are doing there is breathing faster again. Okay. So if you look at all these high intensity activity, essentially what we are trying to do is trying to make that breath faster. And of course, when that happens, sweat comes out natural as a byproduct of it. But more than that, the breath comes out. More and more, you're exhaling it out. Fine. And now, is there a simpler way for some people whom you think they're lazy, they don't want to do workout, they don't want to go anywhere? The easiest way is pranayama. You sit there and do your pranayama properly, then all these happens automatically. Okay. I think I made a detailed video on this on YouTube. Whenever you can just go and check out that particular video. And they say that lungs is one of the most important excretion system also by looking at this equation. Fine. All right. Now let us shift our focus to the muscular system that controls the breathing itself. So these are the muscles which is involved in the inspiration part. These are the ones which is involved in the expiration part. I'm not going to explain all the muscular system which is involved here, but just at a very high level, if I wanted to explain something, your breathing is controlled by predominantly your diaphragm, which is the big sheet of muscle which is covering or which splits your thoracic system with the abdominal cavity, which is there in between that. And there are a lot of intracostal muscle which is between the two rib cage or the rib bones itself, and also your abdominal muscles, which involves your rectus abdominal, your obliques, external oblique, internal obliques, and transverse abdominal muscles. All of this is involved in that, and also all your sternocleidomastoid, scalenes, all of this which also comes into picture, and of course your pectoralis and all of these things. So these are the different muscles involved, and depending on the type of breathing, different muscles comes into picture, depending on the type of breathing that we are doing. So when I say type of breathing, so there are different ways of breathing. I think probably we are all familiar with abdominal breathing, thoracic breathing, clavicular breathing, the three parts of breathing, right? So, but anatomically, if you want to look at it, it can be divided. It can come in 5 ways. So one is abdomino-diaphragmatic breathing. Okay, so very different names, I would say, but essentially what exactly we are doing is, and this is exactly what we commonly call it as abdominal breathing. Okay, this particular thing is what is commonly called as abdominal breathing. Here what is happening is, as you inhale, the diaphragm drops down, abdomen goes out, as simple as that, and chest is not moving much, it is held stable. And why it is called as abdomino-diaphragmatic breathing? To differentiate between the next kind of breathing, which is called as thoraco-diaphragmatic breathing. And now I'll allow you to think and tell me which of these breathings are better for us. So in thoraco-abdominal breathing, what exactly is happening is your abdomen is slightly held taut. It is not so flexible as the abdomino-diaphragmatic breathing, whereas the diaphragm is moving still, chest is not moving. So when the diaphragm moves, as you kind of inhale, the diaphragm goes down. What exactly is happening is your lower ribs, where the diaphragm is attached to, they start going out. I hope I'm not sure whether you're able to see me to show the movements clearly, because I can't see anyone. So I'm not sure whether you can see me or not. So you kind of understand the difference here, right? In abdominal breathing is one where only the abdomen is moving as you inhale and exhale. In thoracodiaphragmatic breathing, here is where the diaphragm is moving when we inhale and exhale. And now this breathing is what is called as diaphragmatic breathing also. And a lot of times I've seen many times people confuse between these words. They use abdominal breathing and diaphragmatic breathing very interchangeably. They use it. Okay, but abdominal breathing is different. Diaphragmatic breathing is different. I hope it is clear. We will come to the question and answers if we have any later. So these are two kinds of breathing, and both are good. There's nothing wrong about it. Both are healthy, and the way we breathe also works on our mindset, as we have already understood, right? So knowing this fact, we can say breathing in this way is kind of calming for the mind. And then it comes to the thoracic breathing. Then again, two different ways there. One is empowered thoracic breathing, where abdomen doesn't move, your diaphragm doesn't move much, but as you inhale, your chest expands. Okay, and here we are saying it as empowered thoracic because this is the kind of a breathing that we do whenever we feel like doing some activity which needs some extra push from us. And we say we take a breath, right? And that is the kind of a breathing that we are doing, like, because it's empowering us to do some activity, and that's why it's called empowered thoracic breathing. And to as a contrast to this, there's one more kind of breathing which is called as constricted thoracic breathing, where your abdomen is extremely tight, diaphragm is rigid, and your thoracic or the upper chest area slightly moves, and this is commonly called as clavicular breathing. Okay, the constricted thoracic breathing is what is not recommended for people, mainly because it is a kind of a breathing that we breathe whenever there's a sense of anxiety or panic. And by breathing that way, it can also create anxiety and panic. And that's why it is not recommended to breathe in this fashion. And coming to the last one, it is called as paradoxical breathing. So here, this is the kind of a breathing that we do whenever we are in a state of shock, sudden shock. Okay, sudden shock, what happens? We squeeze the abdomen, we just take a big breath. Okay, sucking the abdomen inside. And that is what is called as paradoxical breathing. And this is the kind of a breathing which we do only when we are in an extreme state of stress only, and that too for a moment. And that is an indication of a panic that we are in right now. So these are the different ways of breathing. So out of this, which one is right? I want you to think what is the right way of breathing. And when we go for the question answers, we'll discuss a little bit more about it, because I don't want to give away everything as a story. So think and come back to me. So we'll just discuss about this, which is the right kind of breathing a little later, and how to we actually can feel all of these things. I think in our workshops, we do make everybody go through some of these things, and they will understand. I think from the experiential perspective, if you have time today, we'll just see if we can experience some of these things. And now we'll shift the focus to the we breathe, we all breathe, and we'll understand why we give a lot of importance to deep breathing in yoga. So in yoga, we say, and also there's in SVYASA, we have a beautiful name for it also. We say it's a full yogic breathing. Okay, it's a deep breathing. So what is the significance of it? Again, to explain all of these graphs, I think probably I take 1 hour actually. But I just want you to get some important key definitions from this. That's the only reason why I put it here. So when we are breathing normally, as you inhale, exhale without any force, and that breathing, what we are just breathing, right? And that is what is called as tidal volume, the amount of air that you breathe normally. Okay, and that is what is called as tidal volume. And after your normal breath, when we take a deeper inhalation, and that extra amount of air that you breathe after that is called as inspirated reserve volume. And after a normal exhalation, if you exhale more, and that is what is called as respiratory reserve volume. And after the complete exhalation also, something is left behind, and that is what is called as residual volume. Understand this much, that's more than enough. I think rest of it is all not for this particular talk, you can say. Okay, so in this, what we have to understand is, when we are breathing normally, we are breathing roughly around 500 ml of air inside the body. And now let me just go to the next slide where I'll explain you what exactly happens. And now here we kind of understand the importance of deep breathing itself. It's a beautiful study done by Professor Madan Mohan, who's one of the fantastic researcher in the field of yoga. And now he just before I explain you this particular table, I want to explain you this graph, this image here. See the 500 ml of air that we breathe in, right? Not everything goes to our lungs, okay? Because some amount of that will get stuck in the passage which goes to the lung, like your nasal cavities, your larynx, pharynx, and all of that, right? Which we call it as anatomical dead space. So why we call it as anatomical dead space is because whatever the air is there in that space is of no use. When I say no use, because it is not getting absorbed by the body. That's why it is called as dead space. So now when you are normally breathing, you breathe in normal breathing, the volume is around 500 ml, and we breathe at the rate of around 12 breaths per minute. And the ventilation, when I say ventilation, it's a total how much of in 1 minute. When we talk about all these here, we're talking in terms of 1 minute. I mean, not this one. This one is in 1 minute. So ventilation is roughly around 6,000. We have kept the ventilation almost constant. That's I would say it's a easy way to understand. This is just multiplication of these two factors, volume and rate. Okay, we get 6,000. That's the kind of amount of air we are breathing in. In that, there is a dead space also. There is a 150 ml which is not being used at all. And how much is getting wasted there? Around 1,800 ml of air is getting wasted in that dead space. So finally, what actually goes to our alveolar is, or alveoli is 4,200 ml only. So this is the basic, like this is the normal breathing. Now some people have a shallow breathing. In shallow breathing, what exactly is happening is the rate is increasing, but the ventilation remains the constant, remains the same. Your rate has become more. Of course, because you're doing faster, your volume comes down because you're giving lesser time to breathe. So the volume naturally reduces. But if you look at the ventilation remains the same, if multiply these two, and dead space remains the same. But now the amount of air in the dead space, if you look at 1 minute as a duration, almost close to 4,800 ml of air is left in the dead space. And what exactly is effectively used is only 1,500 ml only. It is per minute. Now, when we take a deep breath, see, deep breath, of course, we reduce the rate of respiration, which comes to only 6 breaths per minute, you can say. I've taken an example as 6 here. And now what happens is the volume increases. Why? Because you are using the entire lung space. You inhale deeply, entire is used. So the volume goes up. And now, even though the volume goes up, the ventilation remains the same because your rate of respiration has come down. Dead space remains the same, but the amount of air which is left in the dead space reduces significantly, so that more air is given to the alveoli for effective respiration, or the more air is available for absorption and exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. I hope this is clear. So that's why we always in yoga, we say, at least during the practice of yoga, we say, take deep breaths, inhale deeply, do yogic breathing. All of that we keep talking, right? This is essentially the reason why we say that. And apart from this, there are some more reasons why. Because if you look at the role of oxygen in our body itself, it is required for every cell of the body. Undoubtedly, we can say every cell of the body needs oxygen. And there is one study which was done, there's a research which was done by a biochemist, which is also a Nobel laureate. He says cancer basically needs a low oxygen environment to survive. So what exactly it is saying is, if at all somebody is having a cancer, it means the body is having lesser oxygen. So now, on a contrary to this, can we say that if we are giving more oxygen to the body, can we overcome cancer? Possible, right? So because this is how you should kind of think, because we give all these practices as therapist. We just tell people about all these things, right? So cancer, all it needs is, one of the things that we can do is breathe properly and breathe deep. So that essentially we are enriching the body with more and more oxygen, which will make the cancer cells very, very difficult to survive. And also they say that wounds heal very fast if there is more oxygen. And more carbon dioxide, essentially what it is doing is, it is making the entire body more and more acidic, where the oxygen makes more and more alkaline. So for those who are not sure about this terms here, just a very high level way of explaining this. Alkaline or basic is just is how much of, if you look at the pH scale that we have, pH 7 is normal. Anything less than that is acidic. Anything more than that is basic. Okay, and basic means it's alkaline also. So when we say that, for nowadays, I think there's a lot of thing going on in this particular space, where the sattvic food that we eat. Sattvic food is essentially making our body more and more alkaline. The rajasic food that we eat, or tamasic food that we eat, like spices or non-veg, all of that, right? It is making your body more and more acidic. Okay, so by looking at all of these things, what we can say is, we just have to make our body more and more alkaline, so that will enrich the oxygen space in our entire body, which will make the cancer cells difficult to survive. It will heal the body very faster. Okay, it's healing the body very faster. And to do that, all you have to do is deep breathe. Breathe deeply. That's it. As simple as that. Okay, so our breathing as a solution for all of these things. It is not just one thing that the breathing is doing. That's why breathing, pranayama is my favorite topic, because there's so many things that we can do with pranayama. Where sometimes after a point you feel like asanas, this is all possible, but pranayama is much more. But particularly as a therapist also. Okay, as a therapist also, a lot of times the pranayama gives a lot quicker results, lot more results than the asana practice also, because I've already given you enough reasoning behind it till now. Let us understand further now. And now again, I'm not going to the depth of this particular image here. So what it is trying to here, what I'm trying to say is the relationship between your respiratory system and your circulatory system. Because the air we breathe in, it just goes to the entire lungs, and that is exchanged with the blood, and that pure blood is what goes back to the heart, and it circulates through the entire body, and then it exchanges that oxygen with every cell of the body, which is called a cellular respiration. I think I put a lot of content. I think I have to little go faster also, because we are running short of time. So it goes to every cell of the body. It exchanges carbon dioxide, brings it back to the heart, and from there that blood goes to the lungs, gets purified, comes back to the heart, and cycle repeats. Okay, so this is exactly what is happening here. And now there is one parameter which talks about this relationship beautifully, which is called as respiratory sinus arrhythmia. So what exactly it is talking is, it is just a physiological phenomena of how respiratory system or respiration and circulation is related. Okay, so what it says is, whenever you inhale, your heartbeat goes up. Whenever you exhale, your heartbeat drops down. Just imagine one breath, one inhalation, one exhalation. It is varying your heartbeat. Okay, how much? Up to 20 beats per minute is the variation that we are creating with this. Just one inhalation, one exhalation. And now by this logic, we kind of can infer from this that if somebody is having a very high blood pressure, they have to exhale more, because heartbeat drops down, and then it naturally drops the blood pressure also. And now if you want to exhale more, that's exactly what we teach in pranayama. When we talk about breathe twice the amount of inhalation, what exactly we're doing is slowing down the heart rate also. Okay, and you can just see, right, if you look at this, what we are essentially doing is a cardio for your heart by doing pranayama practices. So a lot of times when we talk about cardio, the only thing that comes to our mind is running or very fast paced activities. By just inhaling, exhaling, and the way you inhale and the way you exhale, you can create a similar kind of an effect in your heart, which is an effect which is created by a cardio practice. By doing, not going anywhere, by sitting there and varying the way you breathe. That's it. I'm not going to the depth of how you vary and all of that here, but I hope you got a contextual idea about it. By varying the way you breathe, you can vary the heart rate significantly, which can effectively work like a cardio practice also. All right, I think coming to the end of it, these are some of the videos. I think we have a few more minutes. These are some of the videos which is there in the YouTube channel. You can go and refer to it. I think this is the effect of breathing on different nostrils, which I was talking about by Dr. Meena Ramanathan, where they have done a research on this. You can just go and there are some more videos. I've not put all the videos here related to the pranayama itself. Whenever you have some time, you can just spend time looking at all of these things. And as a final message, we have spoken about the physiology and all of those things at a very high level. But if I go in deep, I think there's a lot of things to say about every slide which I have. Of course, in the interest of time, I had to cover up a good amount of information in 1 hour time. But understand this, right? Our breath is a very subtle level of our existence, subtle thing of our existence, you can say, subtle aspect of our existence. Probably that's the right word. Subtle aspect of our existence. And how we control the breath is extremely important, because a lot of times people can go to some irreversible damages by not doing pranayama practices properly. Fine. And doing the right practice is very much important, particularly when it comes to pranayama, because in pranayama you're working with the subtlest part of your existence, and that's where the sages, the great yogis, have told how it has to be done. They say, "Yatha simmo gajo vyagro bhavet vashvam shanai shanai." The way you control wild animals like lion, tiger, elephant, and that's how you control the breath. Tataiva sevito vayu. If not, if you don't do this, anyata hanti sadhakam, it is definitely going to destroy the practitioner for sure. Fine. So that is the importance of breathing, and the importance of breathing more than anything. So, and doing the practice of pranayama also, you should focus on doing the practice in such a way. That's why one of the prerequisites of pranayama practice is where the text again. I'm not talking. It's not mentioned here. It says, "Guru upadishta pranayama samabhyaset." So when I after saying all of these things, right, why I'm saying this is because pranayama is not something that you can learn by looking at a video. It is not something that you can learn by listening to some lectures. Okay, it has to be practiced under the guidance of a guru or a teacher. So because the essential nature of practice is so subtle, that please don't just like the jump into practicing pranayama very casually, carelessly, and all of that. So make sure that you are always under the guidance of a teacher. If not for asanas, I don't mind, but at least for practice of pranayama, definitely required. Okay. All right. So with this, I'll open the floor for any questions you have. So thank you so much. Yes, I think I can see some questions on the screen. Yeah, awesome. So
Yeah,
thank
there
you.
are
The
few
effects of
people
body
that raised.
system. Okay. Once again, I'll come to that. Before that, there are some more. How to ensure one nostril is more active? Is that possible? How to ensure one nostril is? Why do you want that? All right. Okay. Let me clarify this point. Right, Ranju. Please don't try to make one nostril active always, because it's against the nature itself. Okay. So because a lot of times we think that left nostril is calming the mind, so always want to make left nostril active. No, definitely not. Because the nature has given this rhythm for us for a reason. Fine. And if you are making one nostril always active, that means you have a sickness. You're not normal. Let me take it that way. Okay. So make sure that you don't attempt to do that also. Whoever asked that question, please don't attempt that. But for the fat loss which pranayama is selected, and what is, and for what duration. Okay. All right. So I gave you a conceptual idea on all of these things. Now see, now you know for weight loss also, right? What are the pranayamas that we can do? You tell me now, based on all these understanding, what can be done for weight loss?
Fast breathing.
Not just fast breathing, right?
Yeah.
Fast breathing is logical. Everybody will get it. So that's why I asked you questions. I asked you this question because fast breathing is kind of understood. That's where I think it's that's where the many teachers recommend Vastrika, Brahmari, all of these things, right? But
Deeper breathing with more exhalations.
fantastic, fantastic. Focusing on more exhalation.
Okay.
As simple as that. Okay.
Okay, sir.
All right. So that was your question, is it?
Yeah. Second question is there.
So what is the effect of Bahya Kumbhaka on the nervous system? See, Bahya Kumbhaka is more than the nervous system, right? It is having some impact. Some things lights up here and there in the nervous system, but essentially what it is doing for the practice, right? It is building our willpower. Okay, it is your tapas, the quality of tapas, right, is what is essentially getting enhanced by the practice of Bahya Kumbhaka. So which is also very much important for us to progress in the path.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
And awesome
And,
session. And is there a pranayama for weight gain also? And see, okay, let me just say some things here for everyone here. See, yoga, or when you look at yoga as a therapy, right? It is not like allopathy where you prescribe some things. Okay, it is not prescriptive science. Let me just make it very clear. Okay, say for example, when somebody comes for weight loss or weight gain, whatever it is, right? In the context of the question I am answering, just don't blindly say, okay, fine, do this practice. And unfortunately, that's not the way yoga is, or yoga therapy is, because yoga therapy is an individual science, because it's an holistic science. So looking at the person, you have to, as therapist, make a decision what tools I can use to treat this person. And don't blindly say, okay, fine, weight loss, do this. Weight gain, do this. No. I think my good friend Dr. Ananda uses a beautiful word for this. He says it's yogopathy. Okay. So he has coined this term. Just like allopathy, right? Yogopathy. What is essentially is doing is symptomatic treatment. If you have a symptom, you do this treatment, do this asanas, do these practices, do this pranayama. No. Because a lot of times, two people can have a same symptom, but the issues underlying could be totally different. Okay. So that's why I don't want to answer these kind of questions, which you will start applying it as a blind belief. Okay. Please don't do that way, because as a therapist, you look at the person, you are healing the person, not the treatment, not the disease itself. Okay. Please have this in mind.
Vinay, just
Yes.
like how when we have to prescribe asanas, you look at a precondition of a person, whether they have any underlying condition. Even before a person is taught pranayama, do you have to know if they have problems like asthma or bronchitis or anything?
More than the asanas. More than the asanas, I would say. Why I say more than the asanas is because, see, I told you, right? I think you all know about kosha theory, pranamaya kosha, annamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, and all of that, right? Manomaya kosha is controlling everything, and manomaya kosha influences your breathing, and breathing in turn influences your annamaya kosha itself. So the breathing or the pranamaya is something in between these two extremes. Okay, and now annamaya, some mistake happens. Okay, but pranamaya, some mistake happens. The danger is even more. Manomaya mistake happens, even more. Vijnanamaya kosha mistake happens, it changes the personality of the person itself. Understand, right? The more subtler we go, more careful we should be. Okay, so that's why when you are recommending any of the pranayamas to anybody, you should definitely know the person in and out before you recommend anything. Okay. All right. So while running longer and slow, as we are inhaling longer than inhalation pranayama, how are we taking more oxygen? No. You're not worried about oxygen here, right? We are worried about carbon dioxide. when you're talking about running and whatever you are talking, right? So we are interested in carbon dioxide, not oxygen. Like we want to let go of carbon dioxide. Okay, that's exactly what we are trying to do here. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Very nice and informative session. Please suggest the pranayama and the duration of for weight loss. Again, I'm not taking this question. Surya Anuloma Viloma Pranayama. What is this question? What is this you're talking? Shruti Chakra Bodhya. I'm not sure what you are meaning by this because you're just given a name of the pranayama. Eating pranayama. Oh, maybe you're answering some questions, I think. Okay, got it. Please show respiratory sinus arrhythmia slide. Okay. Slide. There is nothing much in the slide though, but I can show it again if you want. But I thought I'd put some graphs also, but I thought it will be too much for this session. All right. Can you see this? All right. Thank you. Let me stop sharing and go to other questions. And whom should we avoid teaching clavicular breathing? See, clavicular breathing is not something, I would not say it's like, because see, if you look at Vibhagiya Pranayama, which we practice, right? Clavicular breathing is also taught there as part of Vibhagiya Pranayama. And the reason why we are teaching is to gain awareness on the clavicular breathing itself. Because a lot of times people unconsciously breathe clavicularly, like without even being aware of it. So by doing it consciously, we are shifting that from, as I mentioned earlier, right, from involuntary to voluntary breathing. That's exactly what we are doing. So you can teach this practice as a practice because people are building more awareness on this particular clavicular section itself.
But in this particular session, you said that the abdomen should be constricted. Generally, we won't do clavicular breathing where we constrict the abdomen, right, sir?
No. When we are doing clavicular breathing, see, okay, coming to those 5 breathing, right? Which one do you think is good?
I think where we use all the thoracic level where
What
we
about
can use.
diaphragm? It's not required, is it?
It is a part of the thoracic, isn't it?
No. Diaphragm is not part of thoracic.
Okay.
The
Diaphragm is
second
different
one,
thoracic.
thoracic abdominal, wherein you increase the lung capacity when the diaphragm moves, and so your
Where the diaphragm moves itself, no, sir. Whenever we fill our chest, the diaphragm also moves.
Whenever we fill our chest, the diaphragm also moves.
No, no.
no, it's to do with the
Oh,
abdomen
saying no.
first and then the thorax.
The 3
Okay. I think now it's going to be nice to know.
I think the first one,
The abdominal breathing.
diaphragmatic breathing.
diaphragmatic.
Diaphragmatic means the second one.
Third is thoracodiaphragmatic breathing.
I said second one. Second one is the diaphragmatic breathing.
First one.
So the diaphragmatic breathing is what is recommended. Okay.
The second one, sir, you want to say.
Second one.
Recommended.
Okay, we can feel all these things. I think,
Recommended
but of
for
course,
what?
not online mode. If somebody comes to me and breathes, immediately we can figure out what kind of breathing they're doing.
Sir, like the way you said that it is second one is recommended for what? It means abdominal breathing should not be done.
No. It is not like it should not be done. Again, so whatever I said, please don't take it blindly and say this is good, that is bad. See, there is a reason why we have all these variations. Okay, and we also go through these different breathing as a normal day-to-day living also. If somebody comes and shouts at us, right? Naturally, our breath changes. You'll be like panicking. Why are you shouting at me? Like something like breath changes, right? So there is a reason why we have all these breathing. Like just don't think this is bad, that is good. Okay, and of course, abdominal breathing is good. I'm not denying the fact that abdominal breathing is not good. Okay, but there are 2 variations of abdominal breathing here. That's what I'm saying. Okay.
So I didn't understand why thoracic is recommended for what
I'm not
purpose?
recommending thoracic. I'm recommending diaphragmatic.
Yeah, the diaphragmatic. Why is that
So
recommended?
the reason why we recommend diaphragmatic is because the major breathing muscle is your diaphragm. Okay, what
Okay.
does the major bulk of the job? And unfortunately, for most of us, we have left it, ignored it. Okay, because functionally we have lost the control on the diaphragm. Because if I want to teach to diaphragmatic breathing, I know the struggle I have there. It is not easy. to make everybody feel the diaphragmatic breathing is the big challenge. Okay, as a not as a therapist I'm talking about, even as a practitioner, if you want to teach you for the yoga teachers, diaphragmatic breathing, it will be a challenge there. Because getting diaphragmatic control, it needs awareness there.
And one point here, sir, most of the people like the diaphragm, when we breathe in, the abdominal region and the diaphragm, it has to expand, right, sir? So
Reverse.
this kind of breathing, they are not aware of it. Just breathing in is, they just constrict the abdomen also. That's the wrong way of practice.
Correct.
Majority
Correct.
they do at the beginning.
Very true.
Yeah.
A lot of people have their wrong breathing patterns.
Yeah.
That's where I'm talking about, right? I'm not talking about therapy people. Like people come to me,
Regular people,
therapy will definitely have some issues with the breathing.
yeah.
But even normal people which don't have any health issues may not also have the right breathing pattern. Okay, and of course, this is a lecture. It's not a practical session to make you experience all of these things. But if you want to take it in that way, the diaphragm is given a more focus, mainly because that is the bulk of the load of your breathing is done by your diaphragm. It should be
One
quite
last thing. So abdominal breathing also diaphragm is moving, but in the second breathing, the
Okay.
diaphragm is moving more.
Fantastic. I
right?
understood your question. I got your question. So why this is better, right? Okay. So that is because in abdominal breathing, it after a point of time, it creates a sense of passive state. Okay. After a
Right.
point, it creates sense of passive state. But diaphragmatic breathing will not allow that to happen. Okay. So it will not allow that passive state to come in because of the very nature of the way we are breathing itself. That's why it is compared to these two.
And sir, sorry, interrupting between. So, but I feel the second one, the diaphragm is expanding more rather than in the abdominal breathing.
But where the diaphragm is going there, it doesn't go to the abdomen, it goes sideways.
In the second breathing.
Diaphragmatic breathing.
Diaphragm.
The movement happens in horizontal direction also, but not just in vertical direction. Okay?
Okay.
As in abdominal breathing, the movement is only in the vertical direction, not in the horizontal direction.
Understood. That's how the lower lobes also expand.
Lower lobes,
In
okay,
the
can say that, but the lobes part is a totally different topic actually. Yeah,
Okay.
but you can, like for this understanding, it's fine. You can say that.
okay, sir. Right.
Sir,
Okay.
could you say that in the abdominal thoracic breathing, shallow breathing until one point, but abdominal diaphragmatic breathing, all the muscles are equally involving themselves, and none of the muscles will get overtired. Could we say that?
In which one? Abdomen, first one, second one?
Abdominal diaphragmatic abdominal breathing.
Okay, second
Both
one.
abdomen and yeah. Could we say that? Like
First
because
one.
So can you just come again?
clavicular breathing, you feel like when you're doing rabbit breathing, you feel tired after some time, and even during dog breathing. But when you're doing full sectional breathing, yogic breathing, you can do it for longer time.
You can do longer, even rabbit breathing, cat breathing, dog breathing, all that you can do longer, right?
We can, but you feel like out of breath, and this could be like normally carried on.
Yeah, okay. In terms of normal day-to-day activities, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, see, normal day-to-day activities is a little different thing here. Okay, because to do diaphragmatic breathing in the way which has been mentioned here, it needs a conscious attention, conscious focus. Otherwise, it doesn't come so easily. Okay, to breathe abdominally, little more easier than this, I would say. Okay, without a little bit of extra effort, also you can get there easily. Okay, because there's a little bit of extra effort required to do the second one compared to the first one. And of course, the effort in terms of focus more than anything. It's not the effort in terms of the physical effort, in terms of your mind being there in the practice.
Actually, I think the 5 breathing we need to consciously do, looking at the diagram where the air flows, the direction of the air.
Don't worry. See, I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
Anatomy. Okay, although I am talking about all this physiology, I can end of it I can say, right? Because one of my when I learned anatomy, right, one of my teachers used to ask me, why do you think anatomy is required? One of the fantastic in terms of anatomy physiology. He asked, as a yoga teacher, anatomy physiology, is it required? He asked. And everybody gave a lot of answers. And finally he said, not required. Absolutely useless. Okay. By the end of it, that's exactly what he said. He says absolutely useless. Why? Because when you start practicing regular yoga practice, all of this, what they have written, is something that you feed for yourself. You don't need books to say books to give you judgment, saying that this is what should be done. As long as you're constantly practicing, all that comes as a natural habit for you. Okay, kind of understanding, right? And whatever the text anatomy, all of this says, is just to verify what is experienced. But experience comes first. Verification comes later. Don't go other way around. Okay. First, start practicing, experience first, and then refer things. And for experiencing first, again, Guru Upadishta Margena, not by textbooks. Okay. All right.
Sir, one thing. Sir, like when we do this singing, and when especially in the singing thing, they do alap practice, the early morning first practice, that those they call it the lower swaras they practice. They say that is also the like a pranayama. And that without even putting any mind, you are just concentrating on the sur and longer akaras, and it automatically leads to
See,
this.
I can answer this question, but I think there is a session by Karuna ma'am later, because she can beautifully explain all these things. I know, and that's why I will leave this topic to her, because this is her strong forte.
Yes,
And
yes, we have done a small workshop with her with the
yeah,
music.
so in the interest of time, and also knowing that she's going to come and talk about these things later, so I will not touch that topic right now.
Right, right. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Sir,
Thank you.
when we do Surya Namaskar or anything, our heart rate rises. So obviously we will go with shallow breathing. And when we do something as a conscious breathing, then we include our deep breathing. How can we make the difference of residual, like our carbon dioxide level will be increased now when we are doing Surya Namaskar in that way?
No. Hold on. See, first of all, if you are doing Surya Namaskara, I'm really not sure why the heart rate should go up, because I do the practice, nothing happens to me. Okay, so that happens why? Because when you do the practice with a competitive mindset,
Okay.
okay, when you want to run faster than you're ready for it, and that's when your heart rate goes up. Okay, so ideally, see, when you are doing most of the yoga practices, right, it doesn't significantly increase your heart rate. That's one of the things why we say it's good for us. It's compared to other high intensity workout, right? Nowadays we have seen people collapsing in the gym out of, I mean, healthy people just collapse from the gym. It's because they're like suddenly changing things there. But in yoga, it doesn't do that. But if you are doing this, that means your mind is working in a competitive mind. That's why you're trying to do faster than you're ready for it, right? And that's why I tell people, even I run also, I do marathon running and all that. I tell people to run also. When you're running also, your mouth should be closed. If you have opened your mouth and you're running like a dog, that means you are not ready for it, or whatever the pace you are going.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Sir.
All right, I think I don't know how much time you have, because I think we have to somewhere end the session also. I don't know whether we can take one or two more questions. Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, you mentioned that 5 types of breathing, but in the book, when we learn there are 3 types: sectional breathing, abdominal breathing, thoracic breathing, and clavicular breathing. So, if we want to teach the common person, like who is the beginner, so how can we teach these 5 different types?
See, I've already clearly told you, by the lecture, you're not ready for teaching. Okay, first you have to go and learn from a teacher all these things. Okay, and once you try it on yourself, experience on yourself, only then you start teaching all these things. Because understand, yoga is not a theoretical subject, it's an experiential subject. And I've seen many times when I go and talk to many yoga teachers, right, they first want to know what to teach. Even when as a therapy, when I start taking classes or anything, right, their mind is only on what to teach people. Forget about teaching, first start practicing. Okay, teaching is later. Okay, that's why even now to this day I don't miss my practice time. Why? Because If I miss my practice time, then I will not be a good teacher, because I'm not a good practitioner itself in the first place. Fine. That's why please don't worry about teaching at all. First, start practicing for yourself. And for that, properly learn from a teacher, all these things. I'm just giving you a high level idea only, all these, how the whole pranayama is. I'm not making it an experiential thing. I can't do an experiential session here.
Sir, one question.
So please,
Pranayama, in pranayama means we can't do pranayama while looking at the TV and all. That is right. But if for weight loss and all, you told more exhalation should be there. Can we ask the students, or can we practice that in front of means regularly exhalation more than
Well,
is work to our weight loss? Just this one, not as a pranayama.
try. You can try, but if you're watching TV and doing it, I don't think it'll work.
No, not TV. Just I'm telling, doing any other
See,
doing other things.
anything, if your mind is not involved in the activity, the effectiveness will not be there.
Okay.
Okay.
Plus,
As long as your mind is doing something, and that's one of the reason why I see people running around with the headphones on. They listen to the song, they keep just running. I don't know what's happening there. Okay, it's a nice study to do for sure, because your mind is somewhere, your body is doing something else. I'm not sure what is effectiveness in that. Okay, because in yoga we are talking about connecting the body and mind, but here we are disconnecting the body and mind, and I'm definitely not sure what is the effectiveness of that.
Thank you.
so Bhaiya, yes. Please throw some light on before starting pranayama. What practices are good to, like, for removing certain energy blockages or making muscles ready to breathe nicely. So what can we do? Yeah. Sorry. No. Before that, some practices are required. We can say.
See, physical practices is a big thing that you can do a lot of asanas there, and depending on which,
like cat and cow or something like that,
you can do
or
cat cow.
spinal.
See, there is again if I want to say generically, you can say cat cow. You can do chest opening practices. You can do back bending classes. All of that is fine. Okay, but to do something, you need to first know what is the deficiency, or what is the, I will not say deficiency, what is the drawback you have in terms of your own experience. I'm using the word carefully here. You need to understand the drawback you have from your own experience. Okay, because say for example, you as a practitioner, right? Imagine that you're not effectively breathing from your abdomen. Just giving an example. You need to understand first that I am not effectively breathing from the abdomen. Then you can build a practice around that so that the breath can move more freely into the abdomen. Probably your diaphragm is rigid, or probably your abdominal walls are rigid. I don't know. Okay, but I'm just giving an example. So you need to build a practice to clear that space first before you could start practicing that. Okay, and now that forms your practice. When we're talking about asana practice, right? All of that forms your practice to create space for your abdominal breathing to happen. And to know that, you should start first knowing. That's why I said sectional breathing is important, because a lot of times we don't give importance to sectional breathing. But if you ask me, that's a very important practice to do, because knowing where the breath flows is very important before you kind of start controlling the breath to where it has to go. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I was like with an intention that I should know something about physical practice, body opening certain practices before pranayama.
That's what I'm saying. Even body opening also, which part you'll open, which that depends on your own experience, right? You cannot generalize that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, it may differ from person to person, right?
Very true.
Yeah, depending on the need of the person, we can give that.
I think in our level 2 Pranayama workshop that we do at Yogavijnana, right? Level 2, not level 1. We talk about how the breath flows to every section of the lungs and how it can be directed different place. There's a lot of things that we can do there. I think once you build awareness, only you'll understand much more deeper.
Yeah. So long time sadhana first.
Definitely. Pranayama is more long, lifelong sadhana.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you so
One
much.
question.
Vinay.
One question.
Yeah, probably
One
I'll take the
question.
last question.
Thanks a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
It's 8:25.
Sir.
We will end the session here.
Sir, in a
And-
regular yoga class, 1 hour class, how much time would you recommend us to do pranayam in a 1 hour class?
If you are doing 1 hour class, at least 20 minutes of pranayama, I would say.
Okay, thank you.
15-20 minutes at least.
Vinayji,
But
if,
for
we
me, it's
have-
like not possible in 1 hour class at all. That's why we have to practice at least as yoga teachers, right? Doing all of that in 1 hour is difficult to do. Okay, that's why we have to practice a lot more, because we cannot cover so much of practices in 1 hour. At least as the teachers, all of us, right? We definitely practice more.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Vinayji, thank you so much. It was very nice session. Awesome. I think everyone were enlightened and they have so many other questions. I think it's better we can send some questions, and of course I will share them your number. They can directly talk to you and take some classes from you.
Sure.
That will be also very great.
Thank you. Definitely.
Thank you so much. We'll end this with a Shanti mantra. Vinayji, can you do the Sarve Bhavantu Sukhnaha?
Definitely. All right. We'll end with the Shanti mantra. Set straight. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramayah. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for giving the opportunity for sharing some things with all of you. Thank you, Karuna ma'am, and thank you, the SVYASA team. Thank you so much. Thank you.